Hello team, today's challenge is equation validation, which is a very interesting one. Okay, we get a string equation, and it's important to note that it's a string. They even say that up here. Okay, and we need to make sure that it validates appropriately. So the parts before the equals actually equal the part after. Okay, the big question is, why is it a string? Right? I don't really know that. And so to that end, we're going to have to work some magic here. There are really two ways to do this. There's one that is very manual. I guess three ways if you include external libraries, which we aren't using today. Okay. But the two ways that we're going to look at are a manual process where we do it very hands-on, a little bit of code to get it done, but it'll work. Okay. The second one is a less secure version. If you've done any research on things like eval, we are not using eval today. So if you know what that is, don't worry. I'm not about to show you something that is super not secure. Okay, but I will show you a variant of that using the function constructor, and I will show you how to try to button it up. So if you had to use that solution, again, there are some security things that we'll talk about, and we'll try to work around those. Okay, not around those, but we'll try to work to make those more secure. So over here, again, order of operations. So multiply, divide, plus, minus, but we're going to take care of all that right here by starting with equation. Okay, not const. We're going to use a let, and we're going to get the equation itself. Because I used equation up here, I'm going to just use EQ and our result. Okay, that's going to be from equation.split like this, and we're going to split on the equal sign. Okay, but the equal sign could also have optional space out in front and optional space in behind, so we need to take care of all that. Only ever one equal sign, so we don't need a G in here. If you want to leave that off, great, not a problem. Okay, because the first two results should get us there, hopefully, unless they're passing something else in, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But for now, this gets it done, which means that down here, the end game will be EQ equals result. So we've used a let up here. We get the EQ for equation, and we are going to operate directly on it. And at the end of it, EQ should be equal to whatever our result is. We're not going to ever change result. Okay, that's our test. So inside of here, we do something. We get found. Okay, found is a holding space. We need one outside of this while loop that we're going to create. Okay, so we're going to do some stuff inside of a while, but we take that found and we set it equal to the results of a regular expression. Okay, specifically, we're going to do plus minus regular expression, and we are going to execute on that. Okay, based on the EQ. Okay, so we're passing an EQ. We're going to do something. I haven't actually made this. Let's go and do that. So right here we have const PMEQ equals a global regular expression. In this case, the G is super important. Do not forget that G, because what we're about to do absolutely needs it. We'll talk about that in a second, okay? But inside of here, we have our digits, and in the tests, they guarantee that we're only ever going to have single-digit equations. I'm going to be more flexible. I'm going to say, you know what? One or more, okay? Followed by a plus or a minus, just like this, followed by more digits, one or more, just like that. Now inside of here, there might also be optional space, so we're going to take care of that. Optional space, just like this. And the final bit is, notice how we used a plus here for one or more. Plus has a special meaning, which means that this plus sign right here is saying find as many of these brackets, one or more of them. Well, we don't want that, right? So let's escape that out and get it done, okay? We're going to do the same thing right away with divide and multiply, multiply, divide, just like this. So it's going to be the digits. Oh, you know what? I totally forgot something. We'll get to that in a second. But inside of here is going to be the asterisk and the slash. And you'll notice that things kind of break because that is our delimiter. So we need to escape that too. Okay. The thing that I forgot was I have a capture group for the operator, but I don't have a capture group for the digits. So we can multiple cursor these and wrap them. Okay. So now I'm capturing the number, the operator, the number, operator, number. Excellent. Okay. And we use the first one, the plus minus, which is technically the second one, order of operations, and we funnel it into found. Now, if found has something, then we drop into this while loop. Okay. If it's undefined, then it skips over, which is perfectly fine. That's what we want, right? So right here we go const, and we're going to get a lot of the things that we get from regular expressions. Okay, so we get the match, and then we get the groups, right? The found groups. So we have the first number, the operator, and the second number. All of that is from found, just like this. Excellent. And then we do the calculation. Okay, so calc equals if op equals a plus sign, because we can never just use this string version of the operator in a calculation. It won't let us, okay? Not without doing it the super insecure way, right? And we want to keep it as secure as possible, so we need to manually add that plus sign. And the way that we do that is by testing, is it a plus? Yes, then it is A plus B, okay? And A and B are both strings right now, so let's do this and return plus A minus plus B, just like that. Excellent, okay? So one way or another, so long as everything lines up, we're gonna either add or subtract and get the result inside of our calculation, okay? From here, we take our string, which is EQ, and we set that to EQ.replace the match and the calc, okay? Now, the question becomes, why didn't we just use replace to begin with, right? Replace could have worked. In theory, it should have worked, and we could have even sent in a function, right? We could have supplied all that information right here to the function, doing the math, kicking it out the door, and being done. So why didn't we? Well, because the last step on this is that regular expression, which is PMRE dot last index. And we set that to 0, okay? Last index is once it finds something, it will go to the end. So if we go back here and we look at example 2, okay, it's 2 plus 3 minus 1. We need to catch the 2 plus 3 and return a result. And then we need to do that result minus 1. Well, the way that last index works is it will find everything to the start of this space. And then it will start on the next loop, it will start at this space. So it'll try to find stuff from here on, and it won't find a digit plus or minus another digit, which means that it fails, okay? By resetting last index to 0, we say, whatever it currently is, start again and go again, right? And by doing that, we ensure that we always capture the result. So we're reducing it down. This is 2 plus 3 is 5. And then on the next loop, it'll be 5 minus 1 is 4. Brilliant, we're there, okay? With replace, somewhere behind the scenes, all regular expressions methods use exec, okay? Mostly. It is the power tool behind how all of these work. And most of them will have a last index, but not all of them honor it. So if we try to do something like this inside of the replace function, it wouldn't know what to do, okay? It just wouldn't. I suspect that's because the regular expression isn't being bound to the callback function, but this seems pretty straightforward to me. So this is what we're gonna do, and we're gonna make it work, okay? So yes, a little bit of extra work, but again, it gets the job done, okay? and not that many more lines than we would have in a replace with a function anyway, right? We still would have had to peel off our matches. Those would have come as arguments actually, so maybe not. And then somewhere in there, we would have had to figure out the math, and then we would have had to return that value, right? And then, of course, finding a way to reset everything, which replace doesn't honor, unfortunately. So this is how we do it, right? And we could take this and boost it up here and start changing things to the multiplication version. So right here, doing the stuff. But before we do that, what I'd actually prefer is there's going to be a lot of duplicate code. So I feel like this should become a function, okay? So right here, let's go and cut this out. Boom, okay? Move it up and call it function do string math, okay? This function is going to take three things. It's going to take the regular expression, the whatever string we're operating on, and the calc function, okay? That is right here, just in case you're wondering. This is the calc function. So we can actually take that right away. No, we'll come back to it because I have to update some variables, okay? So stay with me. But regular expression, there are two of them in here. Let's change that to RE. Down here, the EQ, okay, there are three of them. That changes to string, brilliant. And this calc function, which I'm going to cut out, is going to be calc fn, and we pass in a, b, and op. I didn't space that well. There we go, okay? Last thing we do is return string. We've operated on it directly, so we just return it directly, and then we can use that down here. We need to take care of the calc function first, though, so let's do that. That's going to be function do add subtract, just like this. We pass in a, b, and the op, and return all of this goodness, okay? Doing the same thing, so we can copy this right above it or below it, it doesn't matter, but do, come on, do it right. Do mult div, right? And I don't have a version of that, so this is going to be here. Okay, so if it is multiplication, then we multiply. Otherwise, we divide. Okay, that's what we're doing there because that's how we're using it. Okay, bringing that down here. Okay, so we have that EQ. It's going to be equal to. We need to do the multiply divide first. Okay, so we do string math. Okay. Passing in our MDRE, just like this, passing in EQ, just like this, and passing in our calc function, which is do mult div, okay? Grabbing that again, going again, we have PMRE, just like this, and do add subtract, okay? At which point, this works, okay? It was a lot of work in here, but hopefully it makes sense. So really fast. This is the manual version, okay? We need to figure out how to operate and do replacements on that string, or at least calculate it, right? We could break the string apart and prioritize based on the order of operations, stuff like that. There are lots of ways to do that. Maybe you share one of those in the comments if you found one. But this is how I would do it. Because, again, it allows me to step through things, right? So I step through the multiplication division, and then I step through the plus minus. And ultimately, that results in something that can be compared to our result, and I send it out the door, okay? Things that we haven't accounted for, where are brackets, right? Brackets, I feel like brackets would be recursion, right? We need something in there to do it. And then what about exponents, right? Those are the big two. That's in BEDMAS, right? Brackets, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. That's how I learned it. Maybe you learned it a different way. But we haven't accounted for those. And that means that our solution is fixed to our tests, right? We haven't accounted for those special cases. But it works, right? And it works quite well, and it's maintainable, and I can test each one of these little mini functions to see if the result is there, which should tell me which part of this is breaking, if any of it is, right? And really the only catch is that I haven't accounted for everything, right? It's very basic math, very basic. So one more time, but this time, instead of doing it manually, I want to show you the a less secure way, okay? It can be secure, but you decide, okay? So I still need to do the split here, okay? I can get rid of all this for a second just to dim it out, but down here, I do something, okay? And I do not use a val. Instead, I use function with a capital F, okay? So const calc equals function, capital F. And function takes a string. It expects this string to be something representing function code, okay? So in our case, we return our equation, okay? Which is under EQ, just like this. And right away, we call it. So don't forget these final brackets. They're very important, okay? So we create it, we call it, and then down here, we return calc equals result. But result is not a number, so be sure that you coerce it and it works. What's the problem with this, right? It's like, wow, instead of all this code, I have all this. The problem is that it is not secure. It is slightly more secure than eval, right? If you've read up on that, but it is not entirely secure, because whatever I'm passing in as an equation gets passed in here, or there's a little bit of security with my split, but imagine that split wasn't there and I was just passing equation in here. Well, we take it on good faith that it's math, but it might not be, right? It might be very malicious code, and we've just said, yeah, go ahead and run that, right? Which is kind of the equivalent of stapling a big picture to the front of your house saying, I leave the doors unlocked. It just doesn't make sense to me, right? We don't do that. And so we need to be very careful with what goes into this equation, okay? Right here, again, the split has helped with that, but there are other things that we can do. The first is right out in front, right before this return on that function, we can, in quotes and with a semicolon, go use strict. Now what this will do is it will limit some of the functionality that can happen inside of this function, okay? Things like being able to alter external scopes or nearby scopes, okay? Can't do that anymore. Having access to this keyword, okay? Inside of this function right here, unless they're doing something similar, inside of this function, this is the whole window. And if I can access the whole window, then I can access anything inside of it, okay? Which means that I could get that poetry that you're writing into some forum, right? Like there's so many things that could happen here, and that feels pretty benign compared to what a lot of this stuff could happen, okay? So anytime we get code, or anytime we get a value and we are doing some sort of execution with it, we really need to sanitize it, okay? So that would be our next step. We've used secure we've used use strict to try and lock down as much of that as possible. And this is very useful. There are even more than the two that I said. But right here, just after equation and before split, I'm going to take that to another line, and I'm going to do a replace. And this is a sanitization, okay? So inside of here, I'm going to go and I'm going to get anything that is not what? Anything that is not a number, anything that is not a space, anything that is not a plus or minus or multiply, divide, anything that is not an equal sign. Really, when it comes down to it, we have about 15 characters, 20 if you consider the normally used white space characters, right? Tab and space and maybe a couple others, okay? So if we can lock those down, then great. And if it's not one of those things, we're going to blast it into the void. So empty string, it's gone, which means that any sort of text, right? We're going to get rid of that. If they try to use const or lets or anything like that, or document.write or anything, right? If they try to do anything like that, it's into the void. So we're only allowing digits and spaces and equal signs and minuses and plus and multiply and divide, okay? And because it's weird that it's not highlighting here, but again, we need to backslash some of these, okay? So we backslash this one, this one, this one. Sometimes it picks up that this is meant to be a range. So I would recommend backslashing that one as well, right? And just cleaning it up, making sure that it all works so that, again, if they try to send something bad through this equation as a way of, oh, wow, you're running a function and I can just send arbitrary code into that? That sounds like fun time. No, okay? We clean it up and then we do this, okay? So that, or we sanitize it first, then we use strict, and then we can run it. Is it 100% secure? I'm not going to guarantee that, right? I just can't. In the same way that I can't guarantee that this is 100% secure. There's just no way, right? Bugs happen all the time. They creep in, but this is way more secure than if you had just run it as an eval, okay? We've tried to do our best to lock it down and sanitize the data, right? And you'll find that most forums, most things will do this, where if you try to type in something like a script tag, right, they'll just blast that into the void. It's like, no, you can't run arbitrary code, right? And that's what we've tried to do here. So bringing it home, that was a long one, and we got to talk about security a little bit, which is always important, okay? But we started out doing it in a very manual way. And there's nothing wrong with the manual way, okay? It works. It gets it done. We got to play with last index a little bit, and we didn't optimize it, but we did make it so that it's easier to maintain, okay? We had to use a while loop because, again, replace by itself doesn't really honor reassignment to last index, right? At least in the browsers that I've checked. I've checked all the evergreen ones. It fails, right? But we can do that. Honestly, if all we did was try to do the replace, we would still have to loop through this. It's just that our check here would be different. Maybe we would be checking for if the string still has a plus or a minus, if the string still has a multiply divide, and then we would be doing the thing, right? So we still need some sort of a loop, which means that this is pretty nice, right? It's pretty handy to know that it exists. If you don't have these options, right? If you need to go fast or you need to do something and you can't do it manually and you can't use a library, okay? If you can defer the security to a library like Math.js, great, right? They've been doing it for a long time. Again, I'm not going to guarantee it's 100%, but they have been doing it a long time, and the nature of those projects, the nature of those libraries are that if there is a security breach, you'll hear about it pretty quick, okay? Axios, looking at you, right? That kind of times out this video, but you know what I'm talking about. So if you need to do that, right, then here it is, right? You sanitize the data, and then you set it up as a function, capital F function, and do it. But definitely sanitize the data, and definitely use strict to restrict the access to global elements on your page, right? Reduce the the amount of surface area that this code can actually execute on, just in case, right? Just in case. Hopefully that all makes sense. What did you think? What do you think about the security thing, right? It's not, it shouldn't be scary, but it should be something that should be at the front of your mind. Okay, don't lose sight of that. What do you think about the manual solution? Did you find a different way, right? Not every solution, just hopefully one good solution. And yeah, let me know in the comments what you think, what you found, how you did it. Otherwise, today this has been equation validation, and I will see you tomorrow.